Oh boy, we got the Rams playing in prime time. We don't even know who their quarterback is going to be. They're going up against the red hot Raiders. I got a $200 guy on the Raiders that I'm really interested in playing in a lot of lineups. Let's do it.
It's time!
What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, what's going on with you, man? How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Just looking at NBA, hoping we can take advantage of the fact that nobody decided to late swap on Wednesday night.
Yeah, people are too busy watching TV and shit like that, spending time with their families. We're not. We're not spending time with our families. So welcome to the show, guys. We appreciate it. Throw us a like on the way in. Subscribe. We are very close to 900 subscribers. At that point, we are going to give away a $50 DraftKings gift card. Hell, screw it, Ellie. You want to give away two? We should give away two.
Let's do it, man.
All right, we'll give away two once we hit 900. We're going to do it a little bit different this time. Go ahead and join our Discord. It's free. That's what we're going to be giving it away on once we hit 900. We'll run a little bot program in there for giveaways, and it'll be a lot easier than giving away something on YouTube. Having to try to DM me on another platform is kind of weird, so we're going to go that way. So anyways, Ellie, let's get into this, man. This is I don't even know where to start, man. The Rams, their season's done. They know it. They picked up Baker Mayfield, a day ago at this point. He will most likely be active, but he's probably not going to play. I mean, the dude literally, by the time this game kicks off, he's going to be in the building for 2 days. That's just not enough. Maybe next week he'll start. But right now we're dealing with John Wolford is questionable. Don't quite know if he's going to play or not. He has a neck injury. That sounds kind of bad. He's $8,800. Relatively decent value for a quarterback. He's approaching that Ben DiNucci range. But Bryce Perkins, if he gets the start, he's $6K, and he has a lot more rushing ability. I'm super interested in him. So just give me your overall thoughts going into a really shitty matchup like this. How can we try to stay on course and try to still kind of win money? $500K to first, they're still giving away money here. So how can we try to maximize that tonight?
Look, the first thing to keep in mind is this is still an NFL game, and despite all the injuries that you're seeing on the LA side of the ball, their team is still very much alive in the playoff race. The NFC is kind of a shit show at this point. So imagine that, right? Bryce Perkins or even John Wolford getting their chance to start in a potential spot to keep their playoff hopes alive, go out there, potentially win a game. I do think this game has the opportunity to be more competitive. Yes, Las Vegas is more talented on the offensive side, considering they're healthy, which obviously matters. But, this is still a Josh McDaniels team. They suck. The Cardinals were able to look pretty special against them, and the Cardinals are pretty bad. So, look, man, I do think that there's a chance that this game stays pretty close. And even with the question marks at quarterback, I think it's notable to see that they're still getting 18 and a half points from Vegas. So, yeah. Don't sleep on that. Vegas doesn't know who the quarterback is, but they're still giving them 2 touchdowns, maybe 3. That's something worth noting.
I don't know if that says more about the Raiders or if that says more about the Rams, but man, this should be a 10.5 point spread. I mean, in theory, if you think about all the games that we've done, this seems like it's pretty mismatched. Vegas doesn't seem to think so as much. So that's something we got to keep in mind here. Look, the Raiders are 5-7. They can compete. They can end up in the wild card. They're only 2 games back from the wild card. They do have a 3-game win streak. Josh Jacobs has been absolutely crushing. He's the NFL's leading rusher. He's got 1,300 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, 10 touchdowns on the season. Remember last year when this guy was kind of a bust? We kind of gave up on Josh Jacobs last year, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, his team sucks ass. They're not. I mean, maybe they're trending up right now. They're generally not a very good team, but I didn't think that Josh Jacobs would be the NFL's leading rusher on a team that is 5-7. It's kind of interesting to me. Derek Carr, 20 touchdowns this season, 8 interceptions, 250 yards per game, passing. Pretty interesting stuff we got going on here for the Raiders. And, of course, we got Davante Adams. I mean, obviously, Davante Adams is the best player on the field, but he's expensive. Same with Josh Jacobs. Same with Derek Carr. we're going to have to get creative to get all three of those guys in our lineups. I really want to play all three of those guys in a lot of my lineups. Maybe I'll leave Carr out of a few, or maybe Josh Jacobs. But man, that's kind of where I'm going tonight. Look at this ownership difference here: 100 points, 43.5 total. I don't know, man. I think there's going to be a lot of 5-man Raider stacks, 4-man Raider stacks, probably a lot of defense, Raiders defense, and probably some Raiders defense at captain. I don't think I'm going to be interested in doing much of that at all, and I might fade the defense for this slate, considering their price tag and just the amount of their ownership just doesn't really equate to the possibility of them being the optimal captain. You know what I mean? So anyways, Ellie, what else did I miss here, man? I kind of wanted to do more of a general thought process on the slate before we get into the details. Am I missing anything else here?
No, man. Again, I just think this is really going to come down to, do you think this implied total is right for the Rams? I think it is. So I think that there is going to be some utility and some leverage to be had by playing a little bit more LA instead of just going so heavy on these 5-1 and 4-2 builds with Vegas.
Yeah. All right, let's get into our injuries here.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
All right, so I'm putting up one slide at a time here. As you can see, there's a decent amount of injuries, but there's only really 2 guys questionable here. Excuse me. Josh Jacobs, quadricep and calf. He was limited. He wasn't a DMP this week, but he's limited, and we're coming off of a game a few days ago, so that's a quick turnaround for him. Rocky Sin is out. Tyler Hall, cornerback, is out, or is questionable. Sorry, and then you've got some other guys out on the defensive side. What jumps out to you here? Really, not a whole lot to me. I mean, it seems like Josh Jacobs is going to push through this. He's been hurt pretty much quite a few weeks this year. He's probably going to push through this and play, right?
Yeah, but look, I think it bears to mention that it is a short week. He's had a pretty historic 3-week stretch here. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he is not utilized 100% as he has the past 3 weeks, right? We could easily see a 75% workload for him just to curtail some of those touches, especially if Josh McDaniels is cocky enough and he goes in thinking that he's going to be up by 10 points. But other than that, man, there's nothing really that sticks out here.
All right, so if we're looking at the Rams, I mean, this list is way too long to even mention, like the players who are out. We might as well mention the players who are in at this point. Aaron Donald's out. I mean, every major player on this team is out except for Jalen Ramsey, probably on the defense. And, there's a couple other guys that are still staying strong here. But this is ugly, man. Ben Skoranek looks like he will play. He doesn't have a designation. Brandon Powell is questionable. A guy like Lance McCutcheon with a shoulder injury, he's been out most of the year. He had a pretty good preseason game. He's $200, worth mentioning. He's questionable. If he plays, I would be interested in playing him. Who else am I missing here? Obviously, John Wolford, questionable. Am I missing anybody else that really makes any difference tonight?
You didn't. I don't know if you said his name out loud, but just so everybody knows, we are aware Aaron Donald is not going to be playing. He is out tomorrow. So obviously, I think that softens up the Rams defense, which already is just questionable in general.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's just get into this breakdown.
Break it down.
All right, so Derek Carr is 10.2K. Pretty decent price for him. These Raiders guys are very expensive. After me doing some building, it's very difficult to get these 3 guys at captain, even with the $200 guy in there, and feel super, super comfortable. But look, John Wolford is 8,800. Like we said in the intro, he's questionable. I think he could be in play at that price tag, going up against not so great defense. He's projected around 15 fantasy points at that price tag. That seems like a pretty good projection for that price tag. And look, if Bryce Perkins does start at 600, I'm going to be all over him. At 6,000, I'm going to be all over him because he's actually seems to be getting a similar projection over on Roto Grinders, right? They have Bryce Perkins as the guy projected for 15 points. FC has John Wolford, so they're just as confused as we are. And also, look, you got Baker Mayfield, 9K. I don't think he's going to play. But here's the biggest question is, did they carry 3 quarterbacks for this? They said Baker Mayfield's going to be active, potentially. So if John Wolford has a neck injury and he starts, are they going to really have Mayfield and Perkins active? I don't think it makes a whole bunch of difference. But I only say that because you just never know what we could see in this game. I mean, if Wolford sucks ass at half, they could pull his ass. I mean, really? I mean, right? I mean, not saying that Mayfield will play, but maybe Perkins gets a little bit of run. I'm not saying to plan for that, but it's just something to think about when you're trying to like go heavy on these guys. I just don't know that I'm super confident in either of these guys. Well, what do you think about that?
So I'm just going to go in with a pretty simple strategy here. Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback. I'll play him. He probably won't be, and I don't plan on him getting any run, even if he is active. So most likely I'm just removing him from my player pool. If John Wolford's healthy, he'll get the start and he'll be my quarterback, and I'll have some exposure to him. I expect the pass game to function a little bit better than it would with Perkins with him in place. But again, 8,800, even 12 points would probably be fine for him in that case. So I'll have exposure to him. But Bryce Perkins, man, if he starts at 6K, like that's it. That's the show. Throw him a captain. Throw him in the flex. Yep. Like I don't know, fade the Raiders defense and get that $800 or whatever you need to get up to Perkins. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
8 points would probably be fine for 6K, but if they're going to still be projected for, we'll keep an eye on line movement. If say Wolford gets ruled out middle of the day, if we all of a sudden see the team total for LA come down to like 12.5 points, then maybe not.
Yeah.
But Bryce Perkins still at 6K. He's going to initiate all the offense. He's going to touch the ball on at least 40 to 50 snaps.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. Like you probably have to play him if he's a starter.
Yeah, agreed. And obviously I'm playing a lot of Derek Carr. I'm playing quite a bit.
Oh yeah, Derek Carr. Yeah, play Derek Carr.
All right, so let's go to running back here. Let's start with the Raiders. Screw it. Josh Jacobs, questionable. He's 12.4K, probably going to play. He's the guy that gets you 80+% of the snaps pretty much week in, week out, especially lately. But you brought up a good point. He is a little beat up. What do we think about him maybe getting a slightly decreased workload? And if he does, let's just say it's 60-40 or 60-20-20 or something to that effect. Is that enough to make you think, maybe I don't want to play as much Josh Jacobs? I don't know.
So come under the field on Josh Jacobs at all, regardless of injury designation. I just think that you're going to naturally have to decide between the 3 top guys from Vegas. I don't know that you're going to be able to put all 3 in the same lineup and still get a healthy exposure to anybody of quality on the Rams side of the ball. So what I think you need to be mindful of here is if you're not playing Josh Jacobs, you're going to have to find another way to get different, because 90% of those lineups without Josh Jacobs are going to be Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, and something else, right? So just be mindful of that. And I actually do think there is a world where you can intentionally fade Josh. It's going to be pretty tough to keep up this kind of run that he's on. Even though those 2 games where he's put under 20 fantasy points seem to be outliers over the past couple of weeks, I still think that there is a path to LA coming out fired up, stopping the run, and trying to get the ball back to their offense.
I mean, the one thing about LA is they're probably playing very loose. Like, there's really not a lot of pressure on them. Clearly, the season's over. There's players who are getting their opportunity to get on tape and gets in starting positions where they typically wouldn't play. So these guys are hyped up, man. They really want to show up. They're at home. I'm quotation marks if you could see me, because basically there are probably going to be a ton of Raider fans there, obviously. But they should be playing loose, man. I do think the Rams are going to be playing loose, and there could be an opportunity for them to shut some of these guys down, but don't count on it. Amir Abdullah's 3K, Zamir White's 1,200. So Amir Abdullah is, what's he getting? Where's he at? He's probably getting 20% of the snaps? Not even. Last week he had 13%. The week before he had 11. The week before that he had 13% of the snaps. So to me, at that price tag, he's not really super in play. If Josh Jacobs doesn't play for some reason, Amir Abdullah is a near lock at that price tag. But if Josh Jacobs plays, I'm not really interested in these backups. There could be a situation where Amir Abdullah can get some receptions out of the backfield. Maybe he gets a random touchdown or something. Same with Zamir White, but I'm just not super interested in these guys. Are you interested in these backups at all?
No, it's Josh Jacobs or bust for me.
All right, let's go to the Rams side. This is I just don't even want to talk about this. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Cam Akers is basically off the team early in the season. He's sucking ass. He comes back and he's sitting on the sideline while Kyron Williams is getting the run. And now Cam Akers comes out and scores 2 touchdowns last week and gets what, like 80% of the snaps or something like that? Are they trolling us here? Like, is Kyron Williams going to come out and get all the snaps? I don't know, man. Like, I honestly have no clue. It seems to me like maybe they're trying to pump up Cam Akers and give him as much run as possible. Maybe they wanted to see what Kyron Williams, their young player, can achieve, and maybe they want to use him next year. I don't know what's going on. He had 78% of the snaps last week, and he had 28% the week before. He had 35 the week before that. So what do we do here with these guys? What do we do with Cam Akers? He's trending up, but people are probably going to be scared to play both of these guys. What do you think? Another note on that, the Raiders' run defense isn't that bad. They're giving up 4.0 yards per carry this year. That's not bad. So what do you think about Cam Akers? I'm not going to play much of him. That's just me personally.
I like Cam Akers, man. At this point, he might be their best offensive player. That might be why he had a good performance last week, right? I don't think that the Rams can lose anything by just playing the hell out of him, and they're going to make the kid happy. If you don't like him, then you at least had something that you can trade him for in the offseason, right? You got some stats under him, some information about how he runs and his ability to come back from a pretty serious injury. But look, this is one of those things where you need to hop in the Discord again, right? We'll be keeping our eye on Twitter to see if we can get any bullshit from some beat reporters to find out who might get the snaps. If Cam Akers may show up and put cream in McVay's coffee or something, and McVay doesn't do that shit, and we have no idea what's going to. He could fumble getting onto the bus, and that means Karen Williams is the starter. So, like, it's one of those things. We'll keep you guys apprised as we kind of research throughout the day. But I think whoever starts is in play. I like Cam Akers. I don't think the field's going to play him. I think everybody's going to think Sunday was a fluke. But what the hell?
To me, he is an interesting. You're right. He's the best. He's their best player. He's their best skill player. So to me, the interesting thing is I want to see what his ownership's coming in at. If it stays around this 15% ownership potentially, dude, I might put a lot of him at captain, obviously, just in case he has one of these 2 touchdown games. But I might try to work him in the flex a little bit more because 7,800, you just can't get to. If you put those top 3 guys at captain, it's really hard to get Cam Akers in there. It just is. All right, let's go to wide receivers. Van Jefferson, 6,400. He's clearly their number 1 guy. He's a deep threat guy. We've seen him score those long touchdowns in the past. Ben Skowronek, I've been calling him Skowronek for a long time. I finally got it right. Skowronek, 4,800. Tutu Atwell, 4,400. Austin Trammell, 600. Brandon Powell, 2,400, et cetera, et cetera. You got a guy like Lance McCutcheon, like I mentioned in the opening. He's $200 if he's active. He's very interesting to me. So what do we do here, man? I think you got to try to get, if Wolford starts, I feel like you got to try to get one of these guys in your lineups, a minimum of 1, in addition to the tight end pass catchers as well. So what do we do?
Yeah, then you might be a little bit more high on them than me, but I do agree with you on the Wolford take. If he plays, I think you can look at these guys a little bit more. But I'm just really not overly interested in these guys. Van Jefferson is a number 3-4 wide receiver for a reason. Ben Skowronek, same thing. I do maybe have a little bit of interest in some of these like deeper guys like Tutu Atwell, Trammell, Powell, whoever ends up healthy, right? Because we still have a couple question marks coming into the slate tomorrow night or tonight. So we want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on that. But if Bryce Perkins is active, man, these are the guys that he's been playing with with the third string, right? The third team. So he might have a little bit more comfortability with some of these guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if, Atwell had a random touchdown. And again, like this is one of those garbage games where you can expect bullshit points. So like Taysom Hill the other night, right? Just up the side of the busted coverage, nobody paying attention. That's the kind of stuff that we'll be expecting from this. The Vegas Raiders are not good. They're not disciplined. So that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen. I will be a little interested in some of these guys, but I don't know. I'll be prioritizing my core of Carr, Jacobs, Adams, or whatever. And then, like I said, I like Akers. And then whoever the quarterback is. And from there, I'm just going to have to kind of find pieces with whatever salary's left.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the Raiders, they're going to have a collapse in the second half or fourth quarter, most likely. In the degree in which they do so, I don't know. But there's going to be some garbage time potential in the fourth quarter for some of these Rams wide receivers. Just keep that in mind. And I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Van Jefferson just catches a 60-yarder for a touchdown in the first quarter and just ruins everyone's lineups. All right, let's. And by the way, basically you're going to want to rotate these three guys out, probably four guys if McCutcheon. And McCutcheon, to me, at 200 is a nice pivot off of a guy we're about to talk about right now on the Raiders side of the ball. Devontae Adams, 12.8K. Play him. Just play him. He is, in my opinion, the most dominant wide receiver in the league and one of the most dominant wide receivers we've seen in a long time because you just don't need him to be open to throw him the ball. You just really don't. You could just toss it up there. Matt Collins is 7,400. He's on the field a lot. A lot of the time he's running wind sprints, but he's on the field a ton. He's just not getting a ton of opportunity. Or he's not getting a ton of targets, but he's out there, which is important. He's 7,400. Keelan Cole, to me, is probably my favorite value play. I'm going to have a ton of him. He's $200. That's the guy I was teasing in the opener. Keelan Cole, he's the third wide receiver. He's the slot guy. He's going to have opportunities. He's going to be on the field like, 60, 70% of the time? Let me look this up. I have my notes right here. He's on the field 57% of the time. Last week, he ran 21 routes, compared to 29 for Devontae Adams. So he's going to be out there, and he's a slot guy, so they can move him around in motion, and he can get a couple garbage, easy little receptions across the middle of the field for like 10 yards or 5 yards. And you get a couple of those, man, you're going to be feeling good. And if you get a big touchdown out of him, man, he's going to make the optimal most likely. So what are your thoughts on all these guys? There's really only two guys I'm super interested in. But I don't know. What do you think about Matt Collins? Are you interested in him? Maybe he's a captain option.
Yeah. So look, I think the important piece that we should talk about on Devontae Adams real quick though is just you got to decide if he's going nuclear or not. He has the nuclear week of 40, 36, 30. Or he has the, okay week of 14.5, 17.5. If you're thinking he's going nuclear, you need to get him into your captain, which I will be doing a decent amount. I don't care what his ownership is there. Like, I think we're probably going to have to rotate Adams and probably Jacobs at captain spots and get some exposure there.
Yeah.
But if he scores 40 points, 35 fantasy points on Thursday night, he's going to be the optimal captain. So that's something to keep in mind. I'll probably have close to 100% exposure of him either way.
Yeah.
But in those lineups that I don't have him, I actually am pretty interested in Matt Collins. If Matt Collins or if Devontae Adams has an off game or one of these performances of 14 or 1 point, 17.5 points, somebody else is going to get involved. And I know we think it's going to be Josh Jacobs, but there might be leverage to have by throwing in Matt Collins. We saw it earlier in the season. I know Devontae Adams, and I believe Darren Waller was also out, where he had 8 receptions and 150 yards, 2 touchdowns or some shit. So we know that he can do it. And I do like getting some exposure to him, especially in the captain spot, man. And look, those are pretty much the alternating weeks. Those red are when Devontae Adams went off. Those green are when Devontae Adams kind of just had middling performances. So, I think you can kind of just pivot off of Adams, get the savings, and then maybe, force in Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs. But I also like your Keelan Cole take, man, at $200. Again, this is kind of an iffy game. This could easily also end up in a blowout, which means Devontae Adams isn't going to be on the field. So your number 3 becomes your number 2 wide receiver, maybe even your number 1. They might limit touches to Matt Collins as well. They're up by 15, 20 points, and even at 10 points in the fourth quarter, there's a possibility we'll see 2 drives of just the backup offense. Keelan Cole could end up with bullshit touchdowns there. But I don't like to game plan for those scenarios necessarily, but it is realistic on this slate. And he is the third wide receiver, $200. I played $200 guys for less.
Yeah, his ceiling is pretty low. Obviously, his floor is very low. But at $200, you don't need a touchdown out of him necessarily. Depending on how the game goes, you don't really necessarily need a touchdown. You need probably 4 or 5 receptions for 50 yards out of him. But that's doable. I mean, it really is doable. All right, let's go to tight ends here. Okay, so I've been calling this guy Foster Moreau for, I don't know, freaking years, I think, at this point. It's Morrow. I don't know. I keep hearing people pronounce it Morrow on these broadcasts. Anyways, Foster Moreau, 6,600. Jacob Hollister, 200. Obviously, Foster Moreau he's filling in for our boy. Why am I blanking on his name? You just said his name. That's how short my memory is. Waller. Yes, there he is. 6,600. Are you interested in Foster Moreau? He hasn't really lit the world on fire. And at that price tag, it's a little risky. You're going to need, I don't want any captain with him, but you're going to need one of these ceiling 13-point games out of him to pay that off. That's why, to me, it's a little risky to play him. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think I'll have a little bit of exposure, but that's just because I like to do 20 max contests. So I don't necessarily just fade people entirely, but I'll have some intentional exposure to him, but that's likely because most of my other lineups I won't be able to afford him. Again, this feels like it's going to be a price range that's tough to get to with the high price guys that we have on the slate. So we'll see when we build, but I really just don't think I'm going to have much of Foster. Jacob Hollister, though, $200. I mean, again, like if he's on the field for 5% of the plays and happens to be on the goal line, he could easily end up with a touchdown or whatever. So if he's active, maybe, but I won't be prioritizing this spot on the Raiders.
Keelan Cole is the guy here. If you're going to go with a $200 guy, that's the guy to go with. Foster Moreau, the one good thing to say about him, he's on the field basically all the time. There are a few games this year where he was on the field literally 100% of the plays. So he's on the field. He's getting the opportunities. Maybe he's just not getting as many targets as you'd like. All right, let's go to the other side. We got Tyler Higbee at 6,200. This guy is literally always a threat to do things, but never really does until you don't play him. He is the bane of my existence for the most part. If I'm saying to fade him or, in the Discord, ask me what my exposure to Tyler Higbee is. If I don't have any, then lock him because he's going to score. This guy's a little scary to me, but he has the upside. What are your thoughts on him at 6,200? And Bryson Hopkins at 200 is an interesting pivot off of Keelan Cole.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I'll have any Tyler Higbee. I just don't feel like he's been a consistent part of the offense. The Rams offense has been just so weird this year that I'm not really comfortable playing him. It looks like his only 2 decent performances were against, NFC rivals, or NFC West opponents, and then the Falcons, who just are trash. So look, I don't know, man. I'm not too interested in him. I think you can have a little bit of exposure. If he's really low owned, then sure, I might come up above the field, but probably not. I think I'm going to prioritize Akers and then whoever the hell starts at quarterback.
Any interest in Hopkins here?
Yeah, for sure. I don't cross out the $200 players, man. If they're active, there's a chance they'll see the field. I'll have a little bit of exposure to them.
All right, so let's get into our kickers here. I'm actually very interested in Daniel Carlson. He's 4,200. I mean, look at some of the outputs he's had this year. Obviously, this is a one-game slate. He could absolutely put up a 0 like he did against New Orleans. He could put up 2 points against Indy. But, man, there's a high floor for this guy, man. 9, 10, 13, 14, 16, 10, 11. At that price tag in a low total game, a kicker with 11 fantasy points at 4,200, that feels very, very possible. And, the same could kind of be said about Matt Gay, kind of. You do see some of these higher-end performances here, but I'm not confident that the Rams could even get into field goal position consistently enough. And if they do, there's a chance that they're down by so much at that point that maybe they're going for it, especially with a guy like McVay. So now that I said that I prefer Daniel Carlson, you guys should all lock in Matt Gay because that's how it works. I don't know, man. Kickers are always hard to predict. Usually the guy that's projected for higher and is higher ownership sucks ass. What do you think here, man? Daniel Carlson is one of the best kickers in the league, and I do kind of think I'm going to go a little heavier than the field with him. Do you agree?
Yeah, man, I think you can be even above the field. Honestly, I think both kickers are in play. These are two very inconsistent teams, and inconsistency leads to stalling out in the red zone or whatever in the other side of the field. So I think both are in play, and for once, I think this is a slate where you might be okay to do both. Granted, you're not going to have highest ceiling in the world, but if this game's 17 to I don't even know what's the 18 to 15, then that'd be a pretty dope lineup to have. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine. That means neither will be in the optimal, by the way.
Screw the kickers, man. Get them off of all fantasy formats. Raiders defense 5,200, Rams defense 3,400. The Raiders defense might be the fifth highest owned player on the slate, and to me that just is a giant red flag, especially at 5,200, to not play them. And I will say that is risky. But you got to take a stand with certain, you just got to take a stand sometimes with Showdown, or you're just going to end up middle of the road with most of your lineups. For me, the Raiders defense, just like we saw, I don't know, it was a few Showdown slates ago where there was, I think it was the Cowboys defense or something, and they scored a touchdown late in that game, which absolutely screwed me. I don't know, man. What do you think about the Raiders defense? They're going to be like 30% owned. I don't think I'm interested in that.
Yeah, no, listen, Dallas was just barely justified, and it was only that fourth quarter. They're also a good defense. Las Vegas sucks, man. I think this team is getting the love it's getting because LA is injured and they've fallen from grace. I don't know. I'm not playing these guys. I think it's easy leverage, right? If they're 25 to 30% owned, then I'll let them pay the rake, and hopefully it doesn't kill me.
Yeah, honestly,
I won't play the other defense either. I don't want either one of the defenses in this game.
Yeah. One thing to say about the Raiders defense is their pass rush is improving. We saw Chandler Jones with 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. So that could be interesting. If we can get, the Rams offensive line, this will be the first time. Wait, hang on a second. Was it the second time or the first time that they've had the same lineup? No, it's the first time that they've had the same offensive lineup for two consecutive games. So my point is saying that maybe the Rams offensive line is still terrible, but they're starting to kind of figure things out. I don't know, man. I'm unchecking the Raiders, I think, and it is a risk, but hey, it is what it is. All right, so let's get to our captain options. Hang on one second. Where are you at, Denny Green? There you are.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
So, Ellie, you're going with Cam Akers here, man. That's ballsy. Is this a salary with ownership thing, or do you really think that he can have he could be like one of the guys on the Rams that absolutely is the highest scoring on that team?
Well, this is kind of a multi-pronged approach here. The first is I wanted to make this game interesting to me, and I think this is a way to make it interesting. The second thing is I actually do think that he is going to get some run. I think there's a real case to be made that he is the best player on the offense right now, and it doesn't make sense to not eating him, especially if you don't want him, right? What's the best thing that the Rams could do is run the hell out of him, make him valuable, and then trade him in the offseason. So, I think he's fine there. And then, the third point was he's the best player. So that I will just stick with that. Yeah. I like Akers, man.
And building with him at captain is pretty interesting because of his salary. And he does have that 2 touchdown upside. It worries me, and I think the rest of the field will be worried about how much volume he actually gets because it's been very inconsistent. And like you said, the guy could look at Sean McVay wrong and be benched. And we've dealt with too many Bruce Arians games where Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. We've dealt with so many of these situations, and I'm just snake bitten from that. I'm not super interested in going heavy, but I think I'm going to have some captain with him for sure. The reason I'm going, I typically don't go quarterbacks simply because they're usually the top 2 highest owned players typically, and they're wide receivers. If that one wide receiver is the beneficiary to all his points, he's going to score more points. So in this particular case, I like Carr just because of his salary, because I like his upside. I like the fact that this team does like to pass the ball, and I think that Josh Jacobs still can get involved. So putting Carr at captain, Jacobs in the flex, or I try to get both of those guys. We'll find out here in a minute, but at least one of those guys. I do like the upside on that, and I do like the ownership. Let's get to our fade.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
That was the wrong sound, but screw it. This might be painful. I'm fading Cooper Kupp for this. What do you think about that?
That's a good fade, man. I appreciate it. I will fade the Raiders defense. I'll fade both the defenses, man.
Yeah.
Fuck them. I don't want either.
I agree with you. I'm being kind of silly here simply because I don't freaking know. This is a tough slate. Anything can happen. I'm not particularly fading anybody, but I will say the Raiders defense, that might be the one, the one guy that I might fade. All right, let's get to our lineup build. Let me pull this up. So we appreciate you guys. Throw us a like. Help get us to 900 subscribers. We'll give away 2 $50 DK gift cards in our Discord. So go ahead and join that. We appreciate you. Let's click a button and see what happens here. This might not be pretty. Ready? Bryce Perkins. So like we said, apparently Bryce Perkins is projected to start on Roto-Grinders, but not on Fantasy Cruncher. I don't know. We got Keelan Cole in the flex, Daniel Carlson, Carr, Jacobs, Adams. That's not bad. This is actually pretty. If Perkins starts, this is a halfway decent cash lineup. I know there's 5 Raiders in here, but what would you change here if you wanted to do a cash lineup?
I don't know, man. I think that's pretty fine. Like if Bryce Perkins is the starting quarterback for LA, I don't know, man. That's still kind of scary. I probably don't think I go with Bryce Perkins at captain. I'd rather just punt $200 and just get some raw points with Devontae or Josh Jacobs at captain.
All right, so let's start this out. We're going to show how difficult this is to start your lineups with Adams at captain, Carr, and Jacobs in the flex. Who do you want to? You want to grab one player from the Rams here for sure, and then we can get our value guy, or like what do we do here? Probably try to get at least Van Jefferson or Skowronek or Akers. I don't even think we can really get Akers unless we punt twice.
Yeah, I mean, let's do that. Let's start with Akers and punt twice because I do want to show it's pretty much impossible to play all 3 at the top.
Yeah. All right. So obviously,
yeah. Now you have 400, so you have to play Keelan Cole and you have to play.
I mean, who's the other guy?
Jacob Hollister, Bryson Hopkins.
Bryson Hopkins. Yeah. I mean, this is not a bad lineup. You just really have to have all these guys. You got to have Adams go off. Cam Akers has to have a really good game. So that kind of worries me with the Cam Akers thing, but I actually don't mind this lineup at all. Let's get rid of Cam Akers here, and maybe you want to go with Van Jefferson or something here, or we could go with Higbee.
Yeah, let's go with Higbee.
All right, Higbee. That's $1,800. So what does that put us? That gets us Zamir White, and then the same old. I'd rather, instead of Zamir White, I'd rather go with one of these other $200 guys. They're projected for more. But you basically just rotate this last spot out. But you see how difficult this is. Of course, if I would play Adams in 100% of my lineups if I could actually build lineups that I like. But this is a little bit weird to me. Any other, who would you pull? Would you pull Josh Jacobs here?
Yeah. Let's build one without Josh Jacobs first.
All right, so we got we got Carr and Keelan Cole and Adams. Do you want to get Higbee and Cam Akers, or you want to go Wolford? What are you thinking here?
Let's throw in Wolford and see where we're at.
All right, let me give him a projection here so I can actually see him. Wolford, Higbee, 5,400. This is pretty reasonable. Let's see where we're at 5,400. That gets us Kyron Williams, Raiders defense. So this could be a potentially popular build here. And then obviously you could switch out Higbee with Van Jefferson potentially too. And you could do both.
What happens? What happens if you go up from Carr to Jacobs?
Let's find out. 3,200 in that last spot with Higbee there and Wolford. That's not bad.
Yeah.
3,200. Amir Abdullah, Powell is interesting, and then all the usual suspects. You just rotate all these guys out.
Yeah.
And let me actually put Van Jefferson in here, just so if people are scrolling through, they can see that we don't love Higbee that much. 3K, same deal. Rotate, get 4 or 5 lineups out of this with that last spot rotated out. So look, if you just fade one of the holy trinity of Adams, Jacobs, and Carr, you have reasonable lineups. If you want all 3 of them in, you probably have to go down at captain. So let's build.
Before we come off Devontae Adams real quick, let's throw Bryson Perkins in just in case. I want to see what kind of flexibility he gives us.
Yeah. All right. So Jacobs and Carr too, right?
Not Carr, just Jacobs.
Okay. So Bryson Perkins, if he starts, who you want? You want Cam Akers or you want one of his wide receivers? Skowronek, Jefferson, Tutu, any of these guys?
Let's go with the running back Cam Akers.
Yeah, because you could run Perkins naked almost.
Yeah.
4,600 in a situation like this, man. I think Daniel Carlson here and go down to our boy Keelan Cole. This is a nice lineup, actually. If Perkins starts,
Perkins plays, I like that.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, you're obviously you're fading Carr, but you could do the exact same lineup, throw Carr in, leave the salary on the table, and then upgrade off of Carlson potentially 6,600. That gets you Van Jefferson. That's interesting. Or you can do Tyler Higbee.
Foster too.
Can we? Yeah, we can get Foster Moreau. There you go. Hey, that's not bad. So I really hope that Bryce Perkins plays because that makes things a lot easier with him there. Because at 6K, that projection, that seems pretty decent. All right, let's get off of Devontae Adams and see what we can do here. Let me build. Let's build, like, all these builds are going to be pretty similar. Let's go down to Derek Carr. Because I think that the Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams captain builds are going to be very similar. Let's put in Carr. Let's put in Jacobs. Let's put in Devontae. Where do we go here? Which Rams player do you want to get?
Man, can we start with Perkins?
Yeah. If Perkins plays, he's great, but don't just go plugging him in. We got to see if he's going to play. 3,500. Let's put in Keelan Cole or any other $200 guy that you prefer. Let's put in Keelan Cole to start this. 3,300. Where does that get us? Not quite Rams defense, but it gets you Brandon Powell, Amir Abdullah, Zamir White, all these other guys. I mean, probably go with Powell if he starts. That's fine. Let's get rid of Perkins. Let's put in Cam Akers here. That's 1,500. I'd rather do that. $1,500. Zamir White. What other $200 guy are we interested in? Bryson Hopkins, maybe. Malcolm Brown maybe gets 2 snaps. I don't know, man.
Let's pull out Jacobs and throw in Matt Collins.
Okay, Matt Collins and Adams, Cam Akers. Are you feeling that?
Yes. If we can now I will punt. Let's throw in Perkins and then Keelan Cole. Obviously, this only works if Perkins plays, but this is something that I wouldn't hate entirely.
Yeah, not bad. Where's Keelan Cole? There he is. All right. Let's move on from Carr at captain. Where are we going now?
Let's do Akers.
All right, Cam Akers. Where are we going? Derek Carr and our Trinity.
Yeah, let's do all 3.
All right. Devontae. Where are we going now? You want to get one more Rams guy in here?
Yeah, I think it's probably Brandon Powell though.
Yeah.
If he's active.
He's active. And 500, another punt. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Keelan Cole.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be tight however you build. I think you really just got to make a decision whether or not you're going to fade one of these top 3 dudes or if you're just comfortable punting. The other thing you could do is maybe try, and I probably will have a couple lineups like this tomorrow night. Maybe just run a couple Dan Carlson lineups with captain or Matt Gay even just to spread it out. That might be enough to get some flexibility. Maybe you can get one of the cheap quarterbacks if they start.
Is this crazy to say? Throwing Daniel Carlson at captain for like cash or single entry?
I don't think so. I think it's fine.
I mean, this game's going to be wacky, I feel like. There's going to be some random dude that might not even be on the freaking slate that scores. Speaking of that, who is your low-owned guy that you think can score tonight?
Well, the way that it's looking, it's Cam Akers.
Yeah, hey, dude, he might be under 15% owned. That's low-owned. Screw it. I'll say Keelan Cole because we've based our entire show around him basically at this point. So Keelan Cole, come on, bro. Catch a couple balls. Help us out. What's the final score, Ellie?
I'm just sticking with 27-17 until it hits.
Until you get it right? I don't know, dude. Fuck, I don't know. 18-15, like you were saying. By the way, I gotta show this screenshot here. This is legit. I mean, this is who's playing for the Rams at this point. I mean, that's probably what they'll look like too. I don't know.
Yeah, bro, I don't know if I'm gonna even watch that game. I'm just gonna rewatch Underdog.
Bro, that movie's sick. If you haven't seen that movie, it's pretty badass. I don't know, man. This is going to be interesting. What's our Sunday night game? Anybody know? Comment down below what our Sunday night game is. Hopefully it's better than this. Let's just say that. All right, we will see you guys for Sunday night. We appreciate you on your way out. Throw us a like. It really helps us out. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It also helps us out. And if we suck ass and you don't like what we said after this game is over, just unsubscribe. You wouldn't be the first one to do it. All right, we will see you guys for Sunday Night Football. Later.